Welcome to Modern Mondays here at the Wasteland. I'm Brad Van Slyke, and joining me in the booth is...
Jeff Stouter.
All right. So what we got going on for us, Jeff?
Well, for round one of the Monday Night Modern Tournament, we have Philip Lauren playing a tried and true classic, Affinity, versus Owen Dean playing Blue-White Tron.
Okay.
Note the Iona in his hand right now. Nice.
Not a card you normally see in Red-Green Tron, is it?
No. The biggest difference between Blue-White Tron and Red-Green Tron is Blue-White it's a faster deck. Like, they can also turn 3 Karn, like the Red-Green Tron can. But they also have blue spells, which are awesome. So the usual win condition for a Blue-White Tron deck is Gifts Ungiven, and then they Unburial Rights an Iona or an Elesh Norn to finish the game real quick. Unfortunately, Iona doesn't do much against an Affinity deck where all their spells are colorless.
Yeah. So Gifts Ungiven, they're using the Fail to Find method with that, right?
Well, it says up to 4.
Yeah.
So you just pick 2, and then they have to pick 2 cards to go into your graveyard. So you pick Unburial Rights and whichever creature you want to get.
Yeah, and then you flash back on Burial Rights to bring in the big fatty.
Correct.
Cool.
So it's a little different take on Tron. The problem with the blue-white deck as opposed to the red-green deck is they are less consistent at finding their Tron lands, but they're also less reliant on them.
Yeah, because they're not using all the green spells to fetch up their lands like Scryings and...
But you also have spells in your deck that cost, less than 6, so that's good. They just kind of use the Tron mana as a backup plan, kind of.
Cool. Now, this is a regular affinity list, or is it a Days affinity list?
No. I believe this is the same affinity list that Philip's been playing for a little bit. So it's pretty tried and true. Like I said, just stock affinity. So it looks like Owen mulliganed to 6, and it looks like he is also on the play. But another thing about this blue-white Tron deck is it has much more interaction in the main board because it, has access
Counter spells,
to Path to Exile.
paths.
Yeah, so it's not just, Stone Dead to Splinter Twin on turn 4 like the red-green deck is. All right, and we have an Ornithopter and a Springleaf Drum. And he's going to vomit more of his hand onto the table, I assume. Yep, that is a Vault Scourge.
Vault Scourge. Yep, the classic, let's play at least half of our hand opening for affinity.
Yeah. It's real basic stuff here. Just 4 permanents in play on turn 1. So the only problem I can see that Owen has is he might be dead. I know this deck does play Supreme Verdict, Wrath of God. It essentially has a Gifts Ungiven package that is made up entirely of rats. It's like Wrath of God, Divine Verdict, and Day of Judgment. So they can always at least get one of them into their hand. But the thing is, I don't know if he can be alive before
he can cast it.
If he can survive to 4 mana to cast these
Looks
spells.
like he's got an Expedition map out.
Yep. Yeah, that's all Owen can really do. He had a Remand in his hand, but Remand against Affinity is pretty medium. So it looks like Phil's going to cast a Arcbound Ravager.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and it looks like he's going to hit Owen for 1, gaining 1 in the process, and passing the turn back. Looks like Owen's going to path the Arcbound Ravager, which Path to Exile is actually really, really good against Affinity because they usually have maybe one.
And that 1 is usually a nod to the path.
Yeah, it's just because Path's coming. Okay, so we have a Metal-Crafted Galvanic Blast, putting Owen to 15. And then let's see if Philip wants to do any Arcbound Ravager shenanigans before the Path's resolved.
It's getting exiled, so isn't modular on death?
Sure. Yeah, but it can sacrifice itself.
Right, of course.
So he can still do all the
he can move some
regular nonsense that
Arcbound Roger again having the 2 abilities where you can sack an artifact to give it a counter.
Correct.
And when it dies, it has modular, meaning you can put those counters on any other artifact creature.
Looks like he sacked all of his permanents to put 4 counters on Vault Scourge to make a big old lifelinker.
Yeah. 2 drums, a Thopter, and
But that actually makes Owen's post-combat path way better. He was playing around that exact thing happening. By casting the path post-combat, he prevents him from taking extra 4 damage.
and now he has a chance to draw into something that can answer it before it even comes in.
Yeah, but I mean, now it's only just 1 5/5. Like, I know it's a 5/5, but that's definitely not as bad as just having an Arcbound Ravager on the table. That card is miserable to play against.
Yeah, plus it shuts out cranial plating from just being a huge swing.
Correct. Cranial plating right now would only be a +4/+0, which is still a lot.
Which is still a lot, but it would have been, what, 8?
Yeah, it would have been for millions. So it looks like Owen's going to keep up this Remand, which is actually pretty solid here because you can only assume that Philip doesn't have any more 0-cost permanents in his hand unless he drew one.
And if he doesn't need to deploy anything, he'll be able to crack the map, filling out the Tron on his next turn.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't think he has anything in his hand
That really needs
really needs the Tron. Like, he has a Gifts Ungiven, but, like, he can cast the Gifts Ungiven with any other land. I mean, he still might get it just because, you know. So if he does draw one of his big, like an Ugin or something like that, he can cast it.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to see that map get popped.
Looks like Philip's just going to put her Glimmer Void into play and pass the turn back.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Like Brad said, Owen's going to go and get his missing Tron land, put it into his hand. Expedition map, staple of these Tron decks. It gives you something to do in the early turns when all you're trying to do is find your Tron mana. And also in the later turns for the red-green Tron deck, at least they can fire your Eye of Ugin, so you can actually, you know, get to killing your opponent. Looks like you drew the Elishnorn, which is not great. Because he really wanted to gifts for that. Let's see if he has a second Elishnorn in his deck. I don't believe he does. I think they only play 1 Elishnorn and 1 Iona. Looks like he also has a Snapcaster Mage, but only having 1 colored source, you can't flashback that Path to Exile. But if he ever does find a second colored mana of any kind, then it will be very, very good. Oh. And now
Blink
Philip
Moth?
has another threat. Yep. Yep. Looks like he's just going to cast the gifts. So the thing is, even if he doesn't have another Elishnorn in his deck, he can definitely get a Worm Coil or just an Iona. Iona is a huge blocker. Like, I don't really know what Philip's going to do through an Iona. Ooh, a Mindslaver.
Mindslaver.
Ooh.
Would have been...
So with the gifts Ungiven that this deck has, some of its piles are very interesting. They also run, I believe, one of Academy Ruins. So you can make piles that are like Academy Ruins and Mindslaver and, an Expedition map or something. Or just piles that are impossible for your opponent not to. Philip's going to choose 2 of them to put into his graveyard.
I picked those?
Yes, those are the 2 that I choose. So, here Owen's obviously going to flashback the Unbearer Rights, targeting the Iona, putting Iona into play. I assume calling red, so he doesn't get burned out with no Galvanic Blast.
Iona being a 7/7 flyer will shore up that attack.
She is a big old duder. And he drew the Wrath of God. I believe that is a revised Wrath of God.
Mm-hmm. Good old white border.
White border and all. The way God intended.
It's one of my favorite arts for that card.
Just a bunch of people getting blown right up, man. Alright, and here's an Iona coming into play. Like I said, I'm assuming he's going to name red. Yep. Oh, actually, it looks like he named blue. Oh no, that's an
right,
R.
that's an R,
Okay.
Yeah.
I was very confused. I was like, oh, well, that's a bold move. All right, so Philip's new plan is to go wide and put enough attackers into play that Owen can't block all of them. But Owen found his second colored source, so now he can Snapcaster Mage his Path to Exile and take care of the Vault Scourge, and then that kind of takes most of the wind out of Philip's sails. But Owen is still at a very precarious 5 life.
Yeah, I mean, even dealing with... He's probably going to have to do that before combat so he can block one of the other ones. Because if he tries to do shenanigans in combat... Oh, no, he's just going to go in. Oh, you think he's going to Wrath?
Yeah, he's definitely going to cast the Wrath. This is a... I mean, he can just cast the Elish Norn in his hand now that he has 2 white.
Yeah.
And Elish Norn is just a massive beating for this deck. Like, if they don't have a Ravager already in play to make one of their guys bigger than what the Elish Norn can... Oh, maybe he's gonna... Here, let's update life totals real quick. Perhaps Owen's going to flash back the Path to Exile on the 5/5.
Mhm.
And then he can block the 1/1 on the ground, so he's only getting hit for 2.
Yeah, and then that allows him to set up into Elish Norn next turn to wipe the board.
True, and also just punch Philip in the head for 9,
Yeah.
which is many. Yep, looks like he's going to filter some of his abundance of colorless mana through his Azuria Signet. This is an interesting game. I feel like the blue versions of these Tron decks have kind of fallen out of favor because the red-green ones are faster, so theoretically more powerful, but I think the blue-white ones are positioned pretty well because they have way more interaction. And Modern is a format where if you can't interact with your opponent, you're just dead.
Yeah, looks like he's just going to go for the 2 off the battle cry from Signal Pass for the air. Let's not lose my Mem Knight.
Yeah, so this Elish Norn is going to be brutal. Oh no, he gets to attack with a Snapcaster too? Oh baby.
4/3 Snapcaster.
Oh yeah.
Pretty unreasonable.
Yeah, Philip might just concede when this Elish Norn comes into play. I don't think he has anything like Vapor Snag or anything else that can get him out of this.
Yeah, normally you see a lot of affinity, like Galvanic Blast. It has, what is it? It's Whip Flare to deal with things, but
they play Whip Flare out of the board. I think, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but I think what Philip's looking for is he's probably going to side in his Spell Pierces. This deck does play Spell Pierce out of the board. So he just wants to put Owen off balance long enough to close the game out.
Mm-hmm.
He's not looking to win a long game. He's trying to make the game as short as he can. Yep, and Philip takes a Metric Zillion. 13, I believe.
And he's just going to pick up, yeah.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, with no way to really buff the toughness, he can't even afford to try. He can't even sneak in some damage with the Blink Moth because it'll die as soon as it gets animated.
Yeah, like I said, unless they have an Arcbound Ravager in play to make something bigger than the debuff from Elish Norn, like they just can't actually beat that card. I mean, they don't really have to because it's a 7-mana creature.
I believe I saw Blood Moons going in.
From Philiporn?
Yeah.
I mean, that's solid. I assume he's had to play Blood Moons now that, Amulet Bloom is a deck and the green-red Tron deck is more popular. Owen siding in Engineered Explosives. Probably going to side in... Ooh!
Ghostly Prison.
Yeah, that is
the
a
classic tax. Pay 2 to attack me.
Sweet sideboard card against Splinter Twin because they can't kill you.
They can get... attacker in.
Yeah, they can attack you for, 1 or 2 or, 2 or 4 if it's a Pestermite, but that's way better than Infinite. I don't know if you know, but 2 and 4 are much smaller numbers than Infinite.
Well, if they're at 4, they're the same. But yes. No, I really like that tech a lot. Although, as I've mentioned, I believe before, my favorite tech against Twin is still Rakdos Charm.
Oh, you take millions. So Phillips glancing over his spell guide, seeing if there's anything relevant. They might be okay. But the problem is Owen does have rats. Like, you didn't see them, but the blue-white deck has them, like, they have for a long time. And Phillips, a knowledgeable player, he definitely knows, approximately what's in these decks.
This is not a matchup that he's never played before.
I mean, I don't know if he's ever played it or not, but, I mean, both of these players are, pretty regular on our Modern Monday tournament, so I'm sure they've battled a few times.
You've got to have something real spicy to surprise these guys.
Which, happens. Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
Get some Grizzle Troll or one of those new ridiculous decks.
Oh, man, so we're going to see... The funny thing is these Ghostly Prisons don't look that bad against Philip. Like, the Affinity deck does not play a lot of mana sources, and if he can slow down the Onslaught to, like, one attack or a turn, he might be able to buy himself enough time to stabilize with one of his, 4 Wrath of God.
It also houses the man lands in the Affinity deck a bit, because then you have to basically pay 4 mana, counting it, because you're not paying with that land to get that guy moving.
Which is many when a deck. I think the Affinity decks run, like, I don't know, 20 lands, maybe. Yeah. Less than.
I've seen
between 18 and 20.
I've seen lists with 16, but that always felt a little greedy to me. But
so yeah, but I don't think Philip has. Like I said, I think Philip just wants to be on the disruption plan. Like, he wants to put down, as Affinity tends to do, put down all of his permanents in play as fast as he can, and then keep Owen off balance to keep him from, wrapping away his board or casting an Elish Norn.
Yeah. I think Blood Moon actually is a little bit stronger against the Blue-White Tron here, because there is red spells that obviously, Red-Green Tron runs.
Yeah, also the Red-Green Tron deck has a little bit better time getting it off the table. They have Seal of Primordium and, Corrosion Grip and things like that, where they can, float the mana and then destroy it. Or their deck is also built entirely on finding lands out of their deck, so they can find their 1 forest and cast a green spell if they have to. Or Nature's Claim. They play Nature's Claim too. Owen actually has 2 Disenchants in his sideboard. But I mean, they might have come in. Disenchant does not seem terrible against the Affinity deck.
It basically says destroy target permanent.
Yeah, it's a Doomblade. Oh, wow, that is.
Oh,
just all right. Go, I guess.
We were so close.
That was an aggressive turn 1 from Philip Lauren.
He's ready.
Putting 6 permanents on the table.
He's ready to crash in for a lot next turn. 6 damage next turn.
Yeah, it's
7 if he animates.
It's gonna be a whole bunch. Well, he can't animate, and also, he can.
He can use it to animate itself.
Oh, and a Signal Pass. Sure. This is comical. It's a 9,
8, 9, 10, because it's got the base 1.
Yeah, it is 10.
Oh, pretty good.
Solid hit you in the head for
go
10.
to half.
Well, the thing is, that's a Stony Silence. Okay, so Owen has a Stony Silence in his hand. I thought it was a copy of Engineered Explosives, and I was like, that's going to be brutal, because all of Philip's permanents cost 0, except for the Cranial Plating. But alas, he does not. We might see a real fast concession from Owen Dean.
A second Cranial Plating in Philip's hand.
Yeah, that doesn't. I mean, he's swinging for lethal on board. He doesn't even need to play another Cranial Plating. If he finds another mana source, he might, just because it plays around Path to Exile, but yeah, if I was Owen, I'd pretty much just scoop them up. We're dead. We need we need to beat a hand that's not like this. Yep, Owen's just not even gonna play. Not even gonna show him the Stony Silence, which I like. It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, and drew the Mana Source. So here's more cranial platings. Yeah, I'm dead.
Yep.
Well, so Philip Lauren.
Oh, and that's the dream for Affinity right there.
Picking up the game too.
That is some Magic Christmas land.
Yeah, that was
6 out of 7 turn 1.
That was disgusting. Is what that was. That was nauseating. Yeah, I mean that's Affinity's game plan. Like sometimes you don't need to mess around with all the. No, it's like you don't even need to mess around with the sideboard cards. Like who needs sideboard cards when your opponent's dead on turn 3? Yeah. Like when you're on the play. Affinity's just such a gross deck. Just a gross deck. Just. I mean, that was like, what would that have been? The cranial plating was for +9, no, +7. So the other one would have made them both +8. So he would have been swinging for 20 damage on turn 4 or turn 3. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you can casually kill your opponent and kill them again.
That's 20 damage just off the cranial
No,
platings.
that's
you
what I'm
had
saying.
you had the Signal Pest with Battle Cry and 3 Mem Knights.
20. So it's like 26, 27 damage. That's just gross.
Yeah.
That's so much. So many damages.
That's a lot.
So
it's turn 3. I'm gonna hit you for at least 37.
All right, kids.
Total.
Take it from us. Don't be this guy. Don't play Affinity or play Affinity. Actually,
Affinity is actually a lot of fun.
It's actually pretty. Yeah, I have also played Affinity, and it's a blast. Like your opponent has 0 fun, but you have all the fun.
You can get blown out though. As we mentioned before, had that been an Engineered Explosives,
oh yeah, you're
gone.
Just like stone dead to like 1,000 different cards.
And if he hadn't had the cranial platings that early and Stony Silence had come down, it would have been a much different game.
Well, Owen also had a Divine Verdict in his hand. Like Owen
Divine
had
or Supreme?
Supreme Verdict.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I keep saying Divine Verdict. I don't know why. But no, Owen had a hand that if the game went long enough, he could have foreseeably won. Like as long as Philip didn't, murder his face off by turn 3, which is what happened. It was pretty reasonable. All right, players are shuffling up, getting ready for game 3. This one's for all the marbles.
Let's see if we can get some sweet sideboard tech in
for
game 3.
Owen drew a Mindslaver, and I'm pretty sure that's not in his. Yeah, that's not in his sideboard for this matchup.
Because I've seen games where you resolve Mindslaver against Affinity and you draw the Ravager, and you go, okay, let's have some fun, and just sack everything to it, and then sack itself.
So that's kind of like a case of a ham sandwich. Like,
yeah, it doesn't matter.
If you have enough mana to put a Mindslaver into play and also activate it against Affinity, you could have beaten them with a Tarmogoyf, an Olivia. It doesn't matter. Like, as long as you had something that does something. Like, I understand that's like.
It's a little bit more reasonable in the Tron deck because it's 4 lands for the 10 mana, and none of them have to be colored, which is something we saw Owen get stuck on a little bit. Like, it didn't matter in game 1. Now, again, 10 mana, whatever, on a turn, like you said, it doesn't really matter. But there's that nice interaction where it's just 4 Tron lands. You don't need other stuff.
So we saw in sideboard Owen taking out Ugin, which I like against the Affinity deck.
You don't wanna exile all colored permanents.
Ugin's minus seems pretty medium.
But Lightning Bolt every turn for 8 mana seems really sweet.
You're probably just dead. I'd much rather have like the Stony Silences and the cheap interaction that you can play off not 1, 2, 3 Tron mana. All right, so it looks like Owen has a path, which is good.
Is that
he has the Azorius
Scars
Figment.
Fanland?
Yes,
Fastland?
it is.
Okay.
Seachrome Coast.
Seachrome Coast. There it is. I knew it was from that cycle.
Ooh, Philip drew one of his Spell Pierces, which is probably going to be pretty decent.
And that's Inkmoth?
Yes.
You have any speculations on what the new rare land cycle is going to be for Battle for Zendikar?
If I was a betting man, which I am, I would put my money on it. What is it? Enemy colored.
The man lands?
Activated lands, man lands.
Yeah, because the original Zendikar, we saw things like Celestial Colonnade and Ravaging Ravine, which were the allied color
Yes.
lands that turned into creatures.
But I mean, they might surprise us. Like, nobody thought they were gonna reprint fetch lands and cons, and they were like, "Haha, show you!" And then everyone thought they were gonna reprint fetch lands and Zendikar, and they were like, "Haha, show you!" So Wizards does what they want. We just all sit and watch.
Eye of Ugin and another Tron land in Owen's hand. Tron lands were very interesting because they're one of the few cards where they had multiple arts in the sets they came out in.
Yep.
I can't think of any other.
Oh, there's a bunch.
What? High Tide? I believe High Tide did it.
High Tide does it. It's just a alliance block.
Okay.
Like all the cards from, I guess it's Ice Age block, but like alliances, Ice Age, they all have like most of it's for cards that you've never seen play because they're terrible. But
which would explain why I mainly know it from the Tron lands.
Yeah. So it looks like Owen is setting up for the Gifts Ungiven. He on turn 3, so he had all his land drops. Looks like Philip just has 2 signal pests in play, with 2 different arts, which is nice.
Yeah, 1 promo, 1 regular.
Looks like he's gonna activate his dude lands.
Yeah, 3 infect here sounds good.
No, that's not. That's the Modern Masters printing of.
I see. The one on the bottom of the screen is the Ink Moth, and then the one that he animated was the new art of the Blink Moth.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
And there's the gifts, as you predicted.
So this Spell Pierce is going to be super gross.
You think in the Wrath cycle, as you mentioned before?
No, I think he's just going to get Elish Norn, Unburial Rites. Because that is pretty appealing on this board.
Yeah, it's a better Wrath. Nope.
And he's like, yep, choose these to put into your graveyard.
Yeah, Philip's representing a mana.
Yeah, so let's see if Owen, if that was the bait spell. Because, I mean, if that Gives doesn't resolve, because he has a Spell Pierce, it's really not that big of a deal. And Spell Pierce is an interesting card because it loses value very rapidly against these Tron decks. If you'll notice, Owen only has 1 piece of Tron mana, so he's not capable of getting it next turn.
Yeah.
But if he was, like, Philip could have been super punished for, like keeping up the Spell Pierce. So let's see if Owen... Yeah, it looks like he's thinking about it. What can happen is he can cast this Day of Judgment. Nope, he's just going to attempt to flashback the Elish Norn, and it's going to get Spell Pierced. Which is fine, because the thing is you really don't care which one of these spells resolves, because both of them just kill the board. You would much rather have the Elish Norn in play, because it also defeats the manlands that Philip has many of right now. Huh.
So that's 2 inks, 2 blinks.
Yes, correct. He has 2 of each. Trying to think. It doesn't look like he... I mean, he has 3 Signal Pests in play. He can do a lot of infect, but I don't think he can kill him.
8. Yeah, because 3 triggers a Battle Cry and 2 inks.
Yeah, 2 of the Nexus activating 2.
So he can either do 8 regular damage or 8 infect.
Well, I mean, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Either one's a 1 swing away.
Oh, yeah, he might as well just go for the regular combat damage.
Yeah.
So each of the Signal Pests do 2, so that's...
Oh, that's right. The Signal Pests, while they don't buff themselves, they see the other Battle Cries.
So that's actually for...
14?
Yes. So that'll put Owen to 1, which is quite precarious.
And
he drew an Emrakul.
the Wrath here doesn't save him because the lands aren't going to get hit.
That's why I would have preferred him to try to bait out the Spell Pierce with the Day of Judgment. But the thing is, if Philip didn't like didn't spell pierce the Day of Judgment, I think Owen's still in pretty rough shape because that means he can activate his ink moths and still hit for 2 infect. Or I guess that no, it'd still be 2. Like this game just seems like really tough for Owen to win. But like he's just gonna pass back and Philip's just gonna murder him with his lands. And that's the game.
There we have it.
We have Philip Laurent playing Affinity, defeating Owen Dean in 2 games to 1.
Now, so Philip played very well. Would you have spell pierced the gifts and denied him basically options later, or you just want to make him show you?
Well, the thing is, if you spell pierce the gifts, he can cast another gift to set that same thing up. If you spell pierce Burial Rites, that's his Burial Rites that is in his deck. Like
there's only one copy.
That's the one.
Okay, then I wasn't sure how many copies were being
He might
played.
be playing 2, but these decks usually play 1. So if you can spell pierce that, like
and it exiles itself.
That's his whole plan.
Yeah,
like that's that
whole mode of the deck is gone.
Like he can still cast, a big fatty.
Yeah,
But
we saw him hard cast Elish. Game 1, but that was several turns in.
Yeah, but that's like turn 6 when he has all of his Tron mana. All right, so that was round 1 of Modern Mondays at the Wasteland. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, we will.
Yep, we'll be
right back for round 2.
Round dos for our Spanish viewers. And this is Jeff Stouter
and Brad Van Slyke
signing off.
All right, and we are back for round 2 of Modern Mondays here at the Wasteland.
Oh man, they're starting off fast. So on the left we have David Kerrigan with Esper Control, and on the right we have Daniel Baker with Infect. So it looks like Dan already fired off a Gataxian probe. So before we get started on what's actually happening in the match, Brad and I just walked over and looked at what David was, just glanced through his deck to what he was playing. I saw a Mystical Teachings, the Esper Charm that is currently on the table, and some more sweet one-ofs. He has a Condemn.
Condemn.
A
Nice.
Condemn.
We saw Lingering Souls.
A Timely Reinforcements in the main.
It's a brew,
It's
and both players are 1-0 so far currently.
Yeah, I mean, he has felled an opponent so far, so...
It has been tested in battle.
Alright, so Dan's dealing a whole bunch of damage to himself, making his mana right. So, the Infect deck tries to play... You guys actually may have seen, I believe Dan was on stream before.
We've seen him on standard stream on a few decks.
I think he was on the modern one too. I may be mistaken. But the way the Infect deck wins is it plays a 1 or 2 casting cost creature that has Infect on it,
So,
plays
like-
a bunch of pump spells.
So you have cards like Glistener Elf, Blighted Agent.
Correct. Inkmoth Nexus, so on and so forth. Plays Might of Old Corrosa, Become Immense, just a bunch of pump spells to make it huge, and then it murders
Mutagenic Growth,
them.
Vines of the Vastwood.
Correct.
Lots of cheap but powerful spells. A lot of spells that for a single mana can give a creature +4.
Plus
Become Immense is insane.
plus millions. I would love to tell you how David's deck wins. It looks like it wins mostly through Lingering Souls, but other than that, I'm not really sure.
Spellskite in the main.
Yeah. You want to be able to protect all your threats from removal spells.
So we'll see a counter here.
All right, Dan's probably going to get in with his Noble Hierarch for one. He might actually Gataxian probe him to try to fish for Glistener Elf. Nope, just bringing the beats with the 0-1. Because every now and again, this Infect deck will kill somebody with regular damage. I mean, like I said, it has a bunch of pump spells, so... Oh, looks like he drew the Become Immense.
He's not far off from casting it.
No, I see a Vines of the Vastwood and a Become Immense in his hand. I also see a Dryad Arbor, which is... And the probe that he just paid for 2 life.
Negate is new.
Negate, Supreme Verdict, Esper Charm,
Path.
Go for the Throne. This deck is...
Chock full of goodies.
Yeah, I mean, all the cards that are on the table right now are good cards.
Yeah, no.
But it's just very interesting.
So Go for the Throat doesn't kill Inkmoth.
Correct.
His non-artifact creature. Although it does wonders.
Yeah, Path will do it. But he also has a Negate, which is going to be pretty good here because... I mean, Dan's probably going to try to play around it, but I don't know how well you can play around it. Like, all your spells are pretty interchangeable, minus the Become Immense. So maybe he just has to wait until he has enough in his hand to... This is going to be an interesting game. David's hand looks really good against Infect.
It looks really good on 2 mana as well. Like,
Oh, yeah.
You can fire off any spell except for Esper Charm.
We have the Esper Charm mana now. We're doing it. Looks like Dan drew an Apostle's Blessing for the turn. Another way to protect his tiny Infect creatures from removal. Huh. I'm trying to think. Dan might have to just, like,
He's got to start making him use the spells.
I mean, if he can bait out this path, he'll be okay. And the number next to David's name is obviously how much infect damage he has taken.
It's not the Player of the Year ranking.
No, it is not. David Kerrigan is not number. I mean, he might be. I haven't looked in a little bit. Oh. Looks like Dan's going to get in there for 2 more.
Mutagenic growth?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, and this is definitely going to get negated. Or his creature's going to get path. But if David tries to path it, yeah, there it goes. He needs to negate that first. All right, yep, just take 4. Casual 4 infect.
Yeah, because he can Apostle's Blessing away a targeted removal.
Correct. Thank you, Dan, for putting infect counters on the screen for us. So this Esper Charm looks pretty medium, but I mean, other than that, David's hand is still just a bunch of kill spells. Oh, yep. Glacial Fortress into Supreme Verdict. Huh.
Swing in for 1 infect? Or reestablish?
Well,
Depends on his hand.
He drew a Might of Old Croza, so if he has another land, he can push in another 5 infect, which is many. Yep. So it doesn't look like he has a land, so he's just gonna swing in, put David to 5. Ooh, a Ghost Quarter from David. That's a good one.
That's a real good one.
Huh. So it looks like Dan's actually out of gas. Like, he's going to bait out this Ghost Quarter right now. Because there's no way around it. He has to. But David's hand still looks really, really well positioned against the next 2 or 3 creatures that Dan plays. Now let's see if he fires off this Esper Charm to draw some cards. Yep, that's exactly what he's going to do.
Instant speed divination.
I believe he drew his 3rd card just shortcutting his draw step.
Oh, and there's one of those allied manlands we were talking about.
Oh yeah, Celestial Colonnade. Oh, that's his win condition. We figured it out.
Got there.
Lingering Souls and Celestial Colonnades. Get you.
Yeah, Colonnades have been a traditional modern win con for the control decks.
I mean, they are very good.
They are a house. Turns into a 4/4 Vigilance.
Correct, with flying.
Yeah.
Ooh, the Spellskite was not a terrible draw. Spellskite's going to make it so at least Dan is protected against... Nope. David still has more kill spells than Dan has creatures. This is still going to... Yeah, this is going to be a real rough one to win. Oh, just get in there for 4. I mean, I actually like this from David. David's trying to close out the game, as fast as possible. The more time he gives Daniel, the more time Dan has to, figure out how to win the game through all these removal spells.
He knows that he's not gonna be able to pump Spellskite up to 14.
One, if he does, he can just path it.
Yeah, he's got the mana up, and he knows that anything that would have infect is going to be summoning sick. There's nothing with haste in the traditional infect lists.
Correct.
Yeah. So he's basically completely safe to just bash in there.
So Dan has 2. There's a Sphinx's Revelation in David's hand. And cast another Supreme Verdict. Pass the turn back. Yeah, so Dan looks like he has 2 protection spells and then 2 pump spells in his hand. So he's going to have to find several threats. Oh, I see. Dan's just going to pump.
He's gonna pump it to.
Yeah. Just for he knows he can't win. Like he already knows about 2 removal spells in David's hand, so he already knows that he can't draw 2 creatures at the same time.
Yeah, that goat for the throat never came down. It's been sitting in there.
And the path, he knew about the path too.
So.
All right, so I would love to speculate as to what David is bringing from his sideboard. I have no idea. Because his deck is such a spicy brew. Well, those are tokens.
Got some tokens. All right. Looks like that token package coming in.
Oh, I see. He's being quite sneaky with his sideboard. Ooh, is that a piracy charm that Dan has? Yeah, it looks like Daniel's just signing in spell pierces, just more ways to interact with removal. Is that a flash freeze I see from David? Oh, man. This deck is a spicy meatball. So, yeah, I can't really tell what's... I mean, the spells are good. The flash freeze seems okay. It counters most of the pump spells. Is that a far and away?
Yeah.
Oh man, David's playing like
on burial rites.
Esper.
No.
There's no way.
There's no way.
David looks like he's playing. I mean, it might be. No, he doesn't have gifts. He has mystical teachings. My apologies. So David looks like he's playing the Esper control deck from like Avacyn Restored Standard, where you just grind your opponent out with Sphinx's Revelations.
And Nephilia John Yard. I used to run that deck. It was an absolute blast.
Nephilia John Yard's a rude one.
Oh, it's not rude. It's slow and building.
As someone who watches a fair amount of Magic: The Gathering coverage, anyone who's trying to kill someone by milling their entire deck is just bad people, just bad folk. The kind people at Wizards of the Coast gave us 20 life points. Use those. Don't be wasteful.
They're a resource.
No.
Life is a resource.
So the main deck negates are actually pretty interesting from David.
I think you keep them in.
No, I mean, yeah, obviously
Yeah.
they're good. Like without all the spells that Daniel is playing on his creatures, like all his dudes are just 1/1, so it doesn't matter.
Like there's not many matchups that main board negates aren't at least decent in. Like Naya Zoo is gonna wreck you because it's got lightning bolts and paths, but
I mean it's not great against like Affinity.
yeah,
it's not great against Boggles. Like it's not good against the aggro decks of the format, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
it's
like
pretty good against Boggles.
They cantrip all their enchantments when they cast them because of.
Yeah, they draw a card off of it, but you still stopping a Daybreak Coronet is really nice.
But what if they draw another Daybreak Coronet?
Well, then they're tapped out. That deck runs on 3 mana.
Also, I don't know if this deck can actually beat a Boggles deck anyway.
No, Boggles is ridiculous. Boggles just top 8'd a Modern Primer.
Thank God for Boggles. We actually had a Boggles match on stream last Monday.
Oh, awesome.
It was he was felled by a Jund player.
Ooh,
Because Jund has many much removal spells.
Jund him out. No, I was looking at some of the recent Modern decks they're doing well, and I'm like, green white auras, what's this? And it's like, oh, it's just Boggles. Oh, okay.
Joke's on you.
Got me. Well played.
You rope them in. So let's see if Daniel's able to overcome this mountain of removal spells. Like, I mean, David's deck is almost 100% removal spells and Lingering Souls. Like,
I think he just drew like the Apostle's Blessing after all his creatures had been removed.
Sure. I mean, it doesn't.
Although the rafts are still going to hit you like a
Yeah,
truck.
he cast 2 Supreme Verdicts. Like,
Casually. Yeah, okay.
Apostle's Blessing doesn't do a whole lot. No, this is a very interesting matchup. All players are drawing their 7s. Looks like Dan has a hand. Looks like that's a Blighted Agent, some pump spells, and a Sylvan Scrying to go get more Inkmoth Nexuses, it would appear. No, but this looks like a fine hand from Dan. It doesn't have the spell pierces or, you know, the interaction that he wants out of his sideboard, but it's fine. I don't think I'd mulligan it.
David going to 6.
The thing is, this Infect deck, it's a terminal velocity deck, so like it does not mulligan well because it's just like burn. Like
You need all that opening 7.
yeah, if ever one of your cards is worth 3 of their life points, every time you mulligan, you make the game harder for yourself. Like in the long run,
Especially because you're going on Infect. You know, Burn has an advantage of in a format like Modern where you're cracking fetches and the shocks. Realistically, most people aren't starting at a full 20 life. They're starting at like 18.
yeah, Infect lets you start at 10 life.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Eh,
It's similar at
it's
least.
similar.
No, the problem with Infect Overburn is that if you draw 1/2 of your, you know, creatures pump spells combo,
Yeah.
well, toward the late game, and you don't draw the other half, your deck just doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like,
Whereas Burn,
Oh,
your
yeah.
creatures and your spells are all going to their face either way.
it's all lightning bolts. So you draw lightning bolts, you know, they'll eventually kill your opponent. But I mean, we saw that in game 1 from Dan. He died with 4 pump spells in his hand, I believe. All right, let's see if David likes his second hand. Oh, yep, that 6 is acceptable. So, looks like it has a dispel in it. Can't quite make out the rest.
Watery Grave. Go to 18.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty nice thing about playing against the Infect deck is your life total actually doesn't matter until, you know, they're trying to kill you with a Noble Hierarch, which hardly ever comes up. So you can kind of, you know, fetch and shock really aggressively against them to make sure you're not missing any colors on any key turns. All right, looks like Dan's going to not try to play the Blighted Agent. Maybe he's playing around Spell Snare or something of the sort. Which is fine. He has an Inkmoth in play, so he doesn't really need to put another threat on the table if he thinks it's not safe. Ooh, a Pendlehaven. So let's see if he starts getting aggressive with this land. With this Nexus.
Pendlehaven is tap, give a 1/1 creature +1/+2.
Correct. Mostly for, I believe it was designed for elves to make elves a little bigger. But it doesn't mind. It'll pump an Inkmoth if it has to. All right, looks like David's just going to take the 1 Infect.
Cracking his other polluted Delta.
Yep, just get a Watery Grave, put into play tapped. Whoa, you can't fetch one of those, David. No, sir.
Esper Mana is online.
Yeah,
But say, isn't Pendlehaven
it is in fact a legendary land.
That's just, you know, for your information. Here, I'm gonna show you how to have one.
All right, so it looks like Dan drew a Vines of the Vastwood. Yep, just swinging it for another one. And there's the pump.
Set him to 3, in fact.
So this is actually a pretty decent setup for Dan. David's not really doing anything. Like, David's not threatening his life total at all. So it's giving him time. And Dan's not committing anything else to the board until he gets a reaction from David. So, I mean, he can just casually hit him for 2 until he dies. Like,
yeah, and he doesn't have to worry. It's not like life with Esper Control running like a Sphinx's Revelation. You don't have to worry about him losing those infect counters.
no.
They stay. He can't, like, he can gain back life, but
Yeah, so it looks like he has an Apostle's Blessing and a Vines of the Vastwood in his hand. Yeah, both players are stocking up on cards in hand to have a big counter war over, you know, the big lethal pump, I believe. Because, I mean, David's still sitting on that Dispel from his opening hand. Ooh, a Path to Exile. That's a good one. Yeah, it looks like David's been sitting on a Go for the Throat, which, as you mentioned earlier, does just about nothing against Inkmoth Nexus. Yep, just go get another Breeding Pool, put it into play. Oh, I thought that was his whole deck. I was like, oh no. Failed to find. Brutal. Oh, just Forest.
good old Zendikar full arts.
Which are coming back.
Yeah.
Hooray.
New ones, I believe.
Yes. Correct.
I'm excited. I'm a big fan of stylish lands.
I'm a big fan of white border lands myself. Just put your opponent on monkey tilt.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So I also see a Might of Old Corrosa in Dan's hand. So it looks like he has enough if he wanted to go for it. I don't think he's going to. Oh, I mean, he can just play this and then protect it with a Vines of the Vastwood and a Spell Pierce. I mean, Spell Pierce doesn't seem great here, but if you lead with the Vines of the Vastwood, maybe he can get him to tap low. Yep, and there's Dispel on the Might of Old Corrosa.
Path?
All right, let's see if he chooses to Apostle's Blessing it. I don't mind that. Yeah, and a second Dispel. Alright. Looks like he has another Dispel in his hand. Goodness. Does David have just 4 Dispels in his 75?
I mean,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Dispel is a
We saw
powerful magic
at
card.
least 2 in his board.
Yeah, I mean, we see 2 in his
I can see
graveyard right
two
now.
in
and he
the
has
2 in the
one his
main,
hand.
2 in the board. Not
Sure.
bad at all.
I mean, Dispel is live in almost every matchup. Alright, so now that the Inkmoth is dead, let's see if Daniel can stick another threat on the table and be able to protect it.
Well, we know that Go for the Throat finally has its target.
Yeah, so the problem is the Spell Pierce in Daniel Baker's hand is starting to look really, really bad. Like, it doesn't.
All of David's removal is at 1 or 2. He's sitting at 6 mana right now.
And the thing is, he's already seen Supreme Verdict, so casting another... yeah, I actually like this. Casting another Blighted Agent into a possible Wrath seems pretty average. But Sylvan Scrying to go get another Inkmoth is solid.
Let's make you have the instant speed removal that works.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, Inkmoth is just a threat that, like, if you have the protection in your hand, then you don't have to then you can activate it. But if you don't have any in your hand, you just leave it as a land. They can't do anything about it. It looks like he's going to Vines this guy, which is probably fine. Does he have 2 Spell Piercings in his hand? Or is he just shuffling very quickly? I can't tell. Alright, so here's a Snapcaster Mage into Go for the Throat, I assume.
Should be exiled. There we go.
Yeah, and this is fine. I mean, David knows his Go for the Throat can't hit the Nexus, so...
Yeah, save it. Save. I assume he's probably got 4 snap. Well, maybe not 4, but a couple snappies between side and main.
So it looks like David's hand now is Path to Exile and Dispel. Which is not a terrible hand to have against Infect. And that'll take David to 6 Infect. Almost there.
I believe he Pendlehaven.
Oh, he did Pendlehaven.
Yeah.
My mistake, he's at 7.
Yeah, there's 1 token on screen we can't see for his infect counters.
And before the end of your turn, path this. This is going to get Spell Pierce. This Spell Pierce is probably going to get Dispelled. Alright, and finally... Ooh, he has a Dispel of his own. Okay, well, we get to keep our Inkmoth. That's good. Now, both players are running on fumes at this point. Here's Snapcaster with an attack for 2. Bringing Dan to 12.
How does Pendlehaven read? Is it attacking 1/1 creature or just 1/1?
It's just 1/1.
So can he Pendlehaven, play the second Pendlehaven, and then pump it again?
It's not a 1/1 then.
Oh, it's not a 1. Yeah, because you can't land drop in response. You're right, you're right.
No, Judge Rad, you cannot play lands at instant speed.
Well.
Ooh, a murderous cut.
Murderous
Ooh.
cut? What?
Ooh. Ooh.
Spicy.
Yeah, this Esper deck is... Alright. Well, now that we've run you out of cards, we're going to start actually playing our guys and...
Battle for 2.
Start doing some stuff, I guess. So... If David doesn't have another removal spell, he might just be dead
I think
here.
it's a land in hand.
Yep, that is a Colonnade.
Do you have the pump?
Well, I mean, he can put him to 9, so if he has any pump spell in his hand, David's dead. Yeah, David is thinking the same thing you were. He's
Does he have
making sure. No, well, he already knows about the
read.
second Pendlehaven. Pump. Crunch. That'll put David to 9.
Oh.
Yeah, this is also fine. I mean, as long as David doesn't rip a Supreme Verdict, this should be okay. Because I think he's going to play the second Inkmoth. Oh, or a Glistener, or not Inkmoth, Blighted Agent. But he's going to play a Glistener Elf instead, which is fine.
Wrath or bust.
Alright, there's an attack for 4, putting Dan to 6. And let's see if David drew anything.
Bit grindy for an Infect matchup.
Yeah, Infect, it's sometimes... Oh, yep. And dead. Okay, sweet. So we have Daniel Baker tying it up 1 game apiece.
I really liked the reserve that Daniel held there. Just getting in for 2, getting for... Like, he had a handful of pump spells. He could have tried to, finish the game out real quickly, and it would have just played into the control. He played the control game. He made sure that his threat stuck. He grinded him down.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you have to do against these removal-heavy decks. With the Infect deck, like I said, it's kind of a high velocity deck, so you need all your cards to matter. And if you're just shipping all your cards into a Path to Exile that's going to 3 or 4 for 1 you, like that's not where you want to be. So you want to stick on one threat, make them react, and when they react to that one threat, give them another one threat. And the Inkmoth Nexuses are best for this because they're the least interactable, the one that David can least interact with, being a land.
And we saw what happened there is David got down, down to Hellbent, drawing his card for turn, hoping it was a removal spell, while Daniel had a full hand.
I mean, it wasn't. He had two or three cards in hand at that point, but that's because they had traded resources and like I said during the match, in like a big counter fight over the big lethal pump spell over that Might of Old Kroza. No, but that's how this modern Infect and in turn the Legacy Infect deck usually plays out against more control removal heavy decks. They just try to grind them down. I mean, that's why they play blue mana. Like, Blighted Agent is good, but, also counter spells are good. Yeah, that match really showed how just powerful having Dispels is. I mean, for both players. Like, 1 mana counter spells in this format are really, really, really good.
Looking like both players sticking with their initial sides.
Yeah, like I said, I can't really begin to tell you what's in David's sideboard or what he's bringing in. But the Infect deck I'm fairly familiar with, and it wants to stick to the same game plan. It just wants to have a little bit of interaction. The Dispels, the Spell Pierces, to stop the removal spells, or the counter spells targeting the thing protecting you from the removal spell. But it's just trying to get in, kill him real fast. Is that a land?
I love seeing how players have their various different ways of looking at their opening 7. The one at a time, the look at 2 or 3, look at all 7 at once.
I usually just put all 7 on the table, and then I pick 5 or 6 of them up, however many I can fit in my hand, and then if there's no lands in any of them, then I one at a time myself because I'm a masochist. So
feel have a little suspense.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dan's gonna go down to 6. See if the 6 is more acceptable. Nope, still no lands. Dan's going to go down to 5, which is unfortunate. But I mean, a good 5-card fast hand from Dan can still beat, a medium 7 from David. Yeah. If David only has like 2 or 3 removal spells, in his hand plus the top, 4 cards of his deck, he can still die to a 5-card hand.
Yeah, and as we mentioned before, the Infect deck, it's cheap. The spells that cast 1, 2, Mutagenic, and Apostle is 0 if you got the life to spare, which you usually do.
Apostle's Blessing actually costs 1.
Whoa, it's 1 in Phyrexia. You're right.
But no, this deck does operate off pretty minimum resources. But you have to have, some amount of lands to play the game, so. But it looks like he has a land and a Noble Hierarch, which is about as good as you can hope for a 5. So this will give Dan something to start with. I can't quite make out David's hand. It looks like he has his one of Condemn in his hand, which is a spicy one. Ooh, and drew the Sphinx's Revelation.
Condemn works on Ink Moth. Although he's just going to fetch it back up with the Scry. Sylvan Scrying, maybe?
Correct. Yeah. Also, Condemn is a sorcery, so...
I thought Condemn was the attacking creature on the bottom. I mentioned wrong there.
I actually might be thinking of Oust. Those two cards are very similar. Ooh. Just many, many Noble Hierarchs. And a Spellskite. Alright, this hand is actually not too bad.
Yeah, he was able to...
Yeah, Spellskite seems like it's very, very good in this matchup. So at what point do you just start getting in there with the Noble Hierarchs?
I would say almost soon. It really depends on what Daniel's got in his hand. I mean, but if you're not drawing any of your Infect, you need to kind of... You're still a speed deck. You don't win the late game against control.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You're going on Infect not because you're doing cool interactions with the poison counters. You're going in for Infect because you only have to do 10 points, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's an aggro deck, so they don't want to be bullied into the late game. Yeah.
As much as I love Proliferate as a mechanic, it just doesn't see play in Modern.
So looks like he's gonna start animating the Nexus, trying to get in there.
Exalted Trigger, swing for 2.
Let's see if David wants to do anything about it. He does not. Just going to take it. That's another thing about Infect, though, is, like you said, they don't have any haste creatures, so they can't really get you out of nowhere. Except for creatures that they're... Ooh, that's a Ghost Quarter. That is not good. I mean, he can still Vines of the Vastwood to protect it.
He'd have to animate it first, though, for Vine to save it with the Shroud from Vines, right?
Yeah. That's absolutely fine.
Pendelhaven.
Like, I don't think David's just going to fire off this Ghost Quarter. I think he's going to wait until he animates it. So this is interesting. So, since David does have a Condemn in his hand, and PS Condemn is instant speed, I was thinking of Oust. Mm-hmm. Ooh, get in there for one with the Spellskite. I was going to say it's kind of interesting because he could animate his Inkmoth, and when it tries to get Ghost Quartered, if he's doing it before attackers, like, he can make his guy immune to the Condemn. But Dan didn't see Condemn in game 1, so there's literal 0% chance he's playing around it unless he knows what David's playing already. Which, you know, is possible, but I mean, I for one do not play around Condemn, so. And neither should you at home.
Creatures on bottom of libraries isn't as... I mean, it's just a one-mana removal spell here. You're not really getting any extra value of bottoming it with so many fetches and shuffle effects, especially, as we mentioned, the scrying. But, hey, get rid of your big, huge dude. Sounds sweet.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. So Dan's still just on this beat you down with this Spellskite plan, which is, you know, unless David starts interacting with it, I mean, I guess we'll eventually kill him in 16-esque turns.
Until that Sphinx resolves.
Yeah, well, we don't like to talk about that. So, Gataxian Probe. Let's see if Dan has to read Condemn or else. Ooh, so David has a Remand, a Condemn, and a Sphinx Revelation in his hand, 2 lands. He's like, I'm on to you and your sneakiness.
So I think what we're going to see here is when he starts attacking again, he's going to be attacking with the Spellskite and Infect, so that Spellskite is a legal target to redirect to.
Unfortunately, that makes the Exalted trigger null and void, but that's probably fine. You can still... Oh, just not even... Oh, because he has Divines of the Vastwood.
3 more. Halfway there.
He is, in fact. So... it looks like David fired off a Sphinx for 3 here. Sphinx's Revelation. Good old Divination Plus. Alright, so... Ooh, another Nexus for Dan is... Ooh, Become Immense. Oh, buddy. Alright, we might see some fireworks now. Oh, that remand seems really good against...
the Delve spells.
Yeah, the Delve spells.
Goodbye, graveyard. Back to the hand.
You don't want to pay 6 for this, so...
He's animating with Pendelhaven.
Yeah, he has another one in his hand.
Okay, there it is. There's some legend rule fun.
Gonna animate both.
Okay.
Yeah, he just needs to... Oh, and there's the attack for 0 with the Spellskite. Get you with this. Condemn. Alright, I'm gonna pump the other one. Oh, so it looks like David drew a Path to Exile as well. Yep. Dan's going to go search for a land from this Ghost Quarter. Enters play untapped. So this is actually going to be really, really good for Dan. So he's going to be able to protect the Ink Moth. With Apostle's Blessing, I assume. Yeah. Protect it from white. And then in response, David's going to remand it, huh? Is he remanding his own path? Maybe? Alright, the remand resolves. Oh, no, he did remand his own path. And then played it again in response. Okay, this is fine. So here Dan can still play the Vines of the Vastwood he has in his hand. Which seems pretty average.
Or just... Well, he doesn't want to move to Spellskite because he knows he still has Condemn in hand. He's got the mana up to do it.
Yeah, there it is. Just bind your guy. If David wants to put your Spellskite on the bottom of your library, that's more than fine. Yeah, I don't think.
Oh, this was all in response to the Pendelhaven trigger.
No.
Or is he
I think,
asking for effects?
No, I think David is counting how much mana he had. What he's forgetting is that he essentially gave Dan a mana when he activated Ghost Quarter. Because it let him put a land into play untapped. Yeah, this is a really interesting stack. Alright, so we're going to path it again in response. Put it on the Spellskite. Alright, path resolves. Dan's going to go to land. And then Vines of the Vastwood is going to resolve, and...
He can become immense here for a single green. Oh, it's path that comes in tapped. Okay.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, that was the one downside of having to... Well, it's not really downside. You had to save your dude with the Noble's mana, which means he can't.
Correct.
Can't pay the single green.
Like I said, this is how you see actually a lot of these blue decks, like the interaction between the blue deck and the infect deck, is they have just really convoluted stacks. Like they have almost a counter war. Did he kick that Vines of the Vast one? Huh. I don't believe he did. Oh, okay. Yeah, he didn't have enough mana to kick it.
We may just miss an Exalted trigger somewhere. Get him. Get him.
Yeah, he still knows about the Condemn, so he's not gonna send his Inkmoth to its demise.
Land go. Classic control play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, get in there for 2.
Get 'em.
Oh man. So the thing is, this Become Immense in Daniel's hand is becoming an actual thing. Like, these Noble Hierarchs are gonna kill David. It may take a million turns, but they're gonna do it eventually. And he's gonna have to do something about it. Okay, there it is. He must have drawn a protection spell. Condemn your guy. Oh, no.
Baiting out the Condemn, play another one? Yep.
Yep, there it is. Think twice. Oh, baby. That's a card. So this is Supreme Verdict. Oh, man. How lackluster is this Supreme Verdict? Kill your 2 Noble Hierarchs.
Well, it makes your lethal swing with Inkmoth still lethal. But it's only exactly instead of...
Yeah, I mean, he has removal spells in his hand. I don't know if he can beat 2 protection spells, though. Yeah, looks like David has 3 cards in his hand.
We saw one was a negate.
One is a negate. He can also flash back that thing twice. Not that that's hyper relevant. Might be a Murderous Cut in his hand. I can't quite tell.
Actually,
it is a Murderous Cut.
All right, animate.
Yeah, Dan has to know that there's something up. Don't exile your thing twice. Other than that, I don't think it matters.
Land.
Alright, dispel your Murderous Cut. Negate your Dispel. Here we go again with these counter wars.
Build the stack.
Alright, let's see if Dan has stone anything here, he will kill him. Looks like he does not. Alright, time was just called for the rest of the matches. But I don't assume this game's going to last 5 more turns. Whew, we found one. We found one, boys. Alright, start flashing back these thing twices. He would like to think several times.
Think thrice. I had a lot of fun with Think Twice when it was in Standard.
Oh yeah, that card's great.
It was just, it always felt good. Like, even when you draw it, you're like, well, this doesn't help, but it'll help later.
David about to fetch up a Plains with his Polluted Delta.
I don't think that's how that works.
Nope. Alright.
And Supreme Verdict.
Alright, so here's an activation of Colonnade. Gonna get in for 4. Bam, get you. Ooh, it looks like Dan brought in Wild Defiance, which is a spicy one.
Ooh. It's +3/+3 whenever
It
one of
gets
your
targeted. Correct.
permanent is targeted. One of your creatures is targeted.
All right, so we have David Kerrigan playing Esper Control question mark.
I'd say so.
Yeah, it looks pretty controlly that game. Winning 2-1 over Daniel Baker. That match actually took a little longer than we anticipated, so we will not have a backup match for you. We will be back though for round 3 here in probably, I don't know, 3-4 minutes. So sit tight.
And we're back with round 3 of Modern Mondays here at the Wasteland.
Hello.
Hello. So we've got America Tempo versus Blue Red Twin.
Correct.
All right.
Correct. We have JD Emberson on the left playing Red, White, Blue Tempo. Geist St. Traft, counterspells, a little bit of disruption, a lot of burn, trying to get you dead. Super dead.
What about Lightning Angel for getting ready for that From the Vault reprint?
Is Lightning Angel in the reprints?
It is in the From the Vault Angels, yeah. They just announced the list today.
Thank God. Lightning Angel doesn't get near the respect it deserves. Lightning Angel, the original Mana Strider. And on the right we have Willie. I'm sorry, I'm probably going to butcher your last name. Porges, playing Twin. So, in this matchup, probably going to see many counterspells.
I'm going to guess a lot of Steam Vents.
Most likely. Many Scalding Tarns will be cracked.
Island.
Speaking of, basic land for Willie.
And there's our Celestial.
Right, in a misty rainforest. Not a whole lot happening. Players just developing their mana bases, as people tend to do in Modern. Turn 3 is when things really
Heat up.
Get so spice.
Pestermite Twin, go!
Yeah. So in this matchup, Willie's gonna try to, now that he knows his opponent is playing blue mana, he's going to try to set up a turn where he can resolve his combo and also have counterspell backup. And I believe these decks just run remands. Some
Sulfur Falls.
do play Mana Leak. Yeah, Sulfur Falls is pretty typical of the just straight red-blue twin deck. We haven't seen a tremendous amount of just the red-blue. Most people are splashing black for Taziger and the like. All right, let's see if JD has a turn 3 Geist of St. Traft. I don't think he's going to tap out against Willie. I assume he knows what he's playing. Both players sitting on Cryptic Command. And there's Desolate Lighthouse. So
That's all. You pay 3 and tap for a loot.
correct. It is actually extremely good in these blue-based control mirrors. Card selection and card quality is very important because these games are probably going to go pretty late. Especially in games 2 and 3, because I assume Willie's going to probably side out most, if not all, the pieces of the combo. Yeah, it looks like JD's just going to sit back. Yeah.
Yep, and we'll loot.
Yep, getting rid of the Lightning Bolt doesn't do a whole lot here.
Was that a Lightning Helix in JD's hand?
Yeah, JD
Lightning
has
Bolt.
a bunch of burn and counter spells in his hand. The way God intended. Yep, might as well. JD's not doing anything, and he's getting to the point now where he's going to have to start discarding, so. Might as well send some burn upstairs. It looks like we have an upkeep Pestermite. It's probably going to tap the Scalding Tarns. Or not Scalding Tarn, I'm sorry, Steam Vent. Oh, looks like it's going to get countered. This might see a remand. Or no, can't spell Pierce it. Yep, looks like Willie's going to